Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our kickoff call for Cloud Security Practitioners Council. Last 4 weeks, right, you, like many of us, and connected and talked about it, what it is and why we are starting it. And thank you to many of our contributors for their contribution to the video interviews that we posted, and also like creating the content and some of the content we started publishing. So thank you for that. And today we thought that, okay, let's do a broader kickoff call to share about what this council is all about, what is our mission, vision, what is our roadmap plan, and how we are going to proceed in this journey together. And more importantly, like, what is the purpose? I mean, why we started this. So to that note, without further ado, we'll get started. Thank you again for joining this session. We understand it is Thursday, 5:30 Eastern. There are some time zone differences. A lot of the folks probably still working in Central Time as well as West Coast time. So that is why we thought that we will also record this session in case there is an interest and people would like to know what it is all about. We will also be posting, as Sunil said, in our YouTube channel as well as in LinkedIn. So first thing is that CSECPC, I mean, what it is, right? The short form CSECPC, I mean, we thought that let's create a council which is focused on cloud security. And it is driven by the practitioners. Initially, when we thought about it, we were actually debating who can be benefited from it. And first thing is that why also we need it, right? There are so many forums. You have the Gartners of the Foresters of the world, IANS, and Cloud Security Alliance. Why we need one more? I will come to that, like why we need one more. I mean, what was the practical driver? We thought that, okay, why we are creating this thing. But the first thing is that the benefit of it, who can be benefited or who should be the target audience? Number one is us who are working in the industry, who are the consumers of the technology. We implement cloud security control, and we are responsible for the cloud security controls of our organizations and also the security posture. So we can benefit from it. I am responsible for the cloud security architecture, engineering, and operations at Humana. Sunil is working with me. He's one of the lead architects in our team for cloud security. There may be many things happening in other companies, in financial services and healthcare, retail, and different industries, where there could be some unique things that we can learn and share, and we can benefit from each other. So that was one of the thought process, how we can come up with a forum where we can collaborate and share each other's experience and source of like words of wisdom. So practitioners were the first in our mind that who can be benefited from this forum. And the second one is also the vendor community. Eventually, there's a huge industry like our vendor partners. They're building the products and solutions, which eventually we are consuming. So it is a partnership, right? Without us, they don't exist. Without them, we don't exist, right? So we have to help each other. But many times we find that the products and solutions developed by the vendor community may not be 100% reflecting what our exact need is in the market. Like a lot of the time we met, right? I have been in this, product evaluation and innovation business for last 20 years, mostly in Wall Street companies and now in healthcare. And I'm connected with like 3,500 people on LinkedIn and many vendor companies and partners for years, right? Or even decades right now. And we have the same story. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we had the same issue, and we still have the same issue, right? We hear about a great concept, and then they come and they share a lot of the things with us. And then we feel that still there are some requirements which are not meeting, right? Or there will be some challenges while we integrate in our environment. So definitely, we found that the other side of the coin, I mean, other side of the group who will be benefited from it is also the vendor community. If we can come up with a council which can share the security requirements from the practitioner community, that will also help to build or even enrich the product or product roadmap by our vendor partners. So that was what we were thinking about, like, okay, it will be beneficial for practitioners as well as the vendors. Now the question is, we have so many different forums. Why we need to create one? The answer is actually we have so many different forums, but we still have so much confusion when it comes to cloud security. Sorry. So there are so many concepts are being tossed, right? So many new terminologies are introduced in the market, both by the research analyst community and also the vendor community. As a practitioner, it is extremely confusing, right? Which one to take and for what benefit. Also, there are so many overlap in the offering and the industry as well as the analyst community making so rapid progress. 2 years ago, we just got to know a concept called Secure Access Service Edge. Wonderful concept. You are basically merging the security plane and the network plane together, can become a one-stop shop. In reality, we all found that the vendors who are strong on the network plane, they have a niche offering that stays on the network side, SD-WAN, software-defined perimeter, zero trust network access and all. And the products which we are good at, secure web gateway, DLP, and all those stuff on the security side, they have their niche on the security side. And the ideal world, which is Secure Access Service Edge, where an offering which is fully integrated has both sides of the world, it is kind of hypothetical. It's not a reality. So if any of the practitioner who was trying to chase that SASE within a year or two, they found that, okay, Gartner came up and introduced another concept called Secure Service Edge, right? Basically focused on the security side, the ideal world does not exist. So with many other concepts in cloud security, CWPP, workload protection platform, cloud identity and entitlement management, cloud security posture management, cloud security access broker, right? So you just name. On top of all of this, you are coming up with CNAP, right? Which is another sort of an hypothetical. There are some implementation, like something can be implemented in the greenfield and something can be implemented in the brownfield environment. But there is a concept of CNAP. Now, if I am going to embark upon my cloud journey driven by a mandate from my business as well as CIO to take part in the digital transformation, and I am the CISO or head of cloud security, I'm trying to come up with technologies and adopt controls which is going to protect my organization, I'm extremely confused, right? Should I continue with my existing thing? Should I jump into the CNAP one? Should I do something else? Shift left, shift right, shift multiple direction. So tons of security concepts and each are explained very well, but in spite of that, what we found after talking to fellow practitioners in the industry, that a practical experience-driven, risk-based approach and defining exactly the requirement or providing the recommendation that, okay, these are the 10 things we need to do to achieve basic maturity. These are the 5 additional things to do to achieve intermediate. And then maybe 5 more to do to achieve advanced level of maturity. That level of guidance does not exist. So it's not only like me or Sunil, like when we were brainstorming through different conferences, CISO forums and all, many people thought about it. And we said that, okay, let's come up and start this council. And I'm glad that in last 4 weeks, since then we interacted with many of you, we have like 60+ members in this group. All are subject matter experts. And we have a cross section. We have participation from VC community. We have participation from industry CISOs across different industry segment, the actual practitioners, also the vendor community as well. So collectively, the idea is that we should be able to provide guidelines which will detail the implementable cloud security to solve a real challenge, not to chase a buzzword or marketing term or a hypothetical concept, but make it more practical, implementable, not to come up with 70 or 100 pages of a research work or a report, but very much succinct to the point, 3, 4, 5 pages. What is our problem statement? What risk it is trying to address? What are the requirements that we need to fill in and meet with the vendor product solutions? And the journey of the maturity. I mean, how to achieve basic, how to achieve intermediate, how to achieve, expert or level maturity, and any notes related to implementation, right? Somebody has learned something and they would like to share. So that will be the guideline. Some sort of a reference architecture recommendation also will be coming up, focused on cloud security, part of this Cloud Security Practitioner Council. So I know like right now, a lot of our participants are muted, so we will be looking for any Q&A and also like keep a tab on the chat if there's any question, but definitely we can go and try to answer all the questions. But that is the idea behind CSECPC or Cloud Security Practitioner Council. It has to be vendor agnostic. It has to be buzzword and marketing free. It is a non-business entity. There is no membership fee. There is no financial thing going on behind it. It is a purely voluntary, passionate technologists, vendors from the vendor side as well as the practitioner side coming together to come up with some of the cloud security, define the requirement, drive the guidelines so that it can help our community together. And in the battle between something good and something is evil, we are trying to, strengthen people who are on the good side, trying to protect our customer as well as our data. And that is what we came up with, which is a community-driven council. I think we can move on to the next slide. And again, this is not a very formal structure. But we thought that like any other community or council, we need to put some structure at least, right? Otherwise, it becomes a little bit chaotic, right? People don't know, what to do, what to contribute, right? We have the vision, everybody's aligned, but there needs to be an initiative. There needs to be a tracking. There needs to be like a program structure. So that's why like we initially came up, we started like, inviting people to join our industry advisory board, like who can guide on the overall thing, how we are moving. And I'm really thankful. A lot of people have already joined. We are in the process, since it is a voluntary thing right now, like, 2 of us or 3 of us are driving a lot of the back end work. And we really appreciate participation from many people. Even if you can volunteer an hour a month, that will be real helpful to manage and maintain. There is a lot of back end logistics as well to run any forum or community to effectively run, right? So that it produces some outcome without minimal effort, right? We don't want to put like too much effort and minimal outcome, rather minimal effort and maximum outcome. So we will start with like an industry advisor and the board. And then like any other community or council, we have the different chapters. We are calling it like a specialty unit in CSECPC. And there are different specialty units, and Sunil will go over those details. But think about it, specialty units is basically a chapter. We will either have a lead, right, or a co-lead, like a chair or a co-chair. And we already have identified some of the volunteers who like came forward to volunteer their time. Those who will be leading or co-leading some of the chapters, their commitment will be a little more. We're expecting like 4 hours or maybe 6 hours a month, right? And we'll try to see gradually how we can scale it down. But initially the effort will be a little bit more. And when we shared that expectation to our fellow community members, some people came forward, and we still have like a lot of the positions kind of like need volunteers for some of the spun chair and the co-chair and distinguished members. As I said, right now, as of now, we have like 62 members. And we will be having the further discussion along with those chapter leads to have the conversation on when we identify the content, what we will be coming up with the recommendation. They will have those internal meeting and publish and manage those individual chapters. And then every month and every quarter we'll be publishing as the contents are reviewed. And Sunil will go over the high level process of how the contents will be selected, reviewed and approved, and then we'll be publishing it. And before I hand over to Sunil, this is not a full exhaustive list. As I said, there are 62 people. We thank everyone for joining this forum. It is completely a voluntary contribution. We really appreciate it. These are some of the people who joined early. We started putting in, and eventually everybody will be added in our website, whoever will be joining as a volunteer or a member. And these are some of the industry thought leaders who already started like very early as we came up with the concept. And we started to just thought to share some of the names and just thank them if some of them are already on this Zoom session. So thank you for joining early and helping us with your thoughts and guidance, and looking forward to this continued journey and coming up with some meaningful security guideline and recommendation. So The last slide before I hand over to Sunil and he will take it forward. This is some high-level roadmap we thought that we probably can deliver. We are targeting by Q2, setting up all the teams, chairs and co-chair and the team structure, and identifying all the SMEs. So who will be participating in the identity chapter, who will be participating in the compute, in the perimeter. So finalize those things, set the expectation, get the commitment from the volunteer time, and get them onboarded in the system. Like we have some backend system, we have some, the Google Drive where we are currently sharing those artifacts, and we are also have a publication channel. So setting up with all those logistics and completing that setup by Q2. In Q3, also publish our initial draft and also continue doing the peer review. And Q4, we are planning of this year to publish at least the first round of the guidelines and the recommendations on the top priority items where people, it will be voted, what will be our priority to touch first and work on it, and at least publish the initial priority list, what the members and the spun teams actually pick up, and to publish the final recommendation by Q4. And also we are planning to have a virtual, like this kind of a thing, like a 1 hour session, sort of a virtual summit for maximum an hour to just share the thoughts and, like how the year goes and what we accomplish and what we need to do in 2023. We'll have a virtual summit in December in Q4. So that is a quick update before I hand over to Sunil for next 10 minutes or so to go over some of the other details and logistics. So over to you, Sunil.
Thank you very much, Partha. I really appreciate it. I think you have shared a really insight into what our mission is and why we are coming up with this council. So I'll take it from here in terms of what are the different specialty unit, and these are aligned across the cloud security various domains, starting from, and certainly identity and access management, the center of it. So I'll start with from the top one, which is on the screen, is the perimeter controls, which is more focused around the network security, how the cloud, considering the cloud is a public, facing infrastructure, how it should be when the customers are looking for various direction around how the, in terms of a evolving technology where we need to still utilize public infrastructure, cloud service providers, public network, internet, and still want to host the various compute and network over the private channels, right? So it's that more focus will be around the perimeter control specialty unit. We focus on that side of it. Then effective monitoring and protection is around the monitoring and threat hunting, security operations center, information and event management aspects of it, where how the monitoring should happen, what are the required control for cloud security monitoring, and from the incident response standpoint. The data security control specialty unit will be focused on the data security aspect of it, including the various type of encryption technologies, various type of access mechanism, various type of authentication part of the data security layer of it. So making sure that the guidelines with the number of products are there and how the organization should be using, how the practitioner should be looking into from that aspect of it, and what are those feature set which must be there from data security control standpoint. The next is application security control. So this specialty unit will be looking into the application, the web aspect, API security aspect of it, making sure that what are the controls an organization or practitioner should look for when they are adopting for the various application, in the cloud, and how to secure them. The next is compute security control, CSE. This special unit will be focused on the compute security aspect of it, including either it's a VM or it's a containers or Kubernetes and or serverless or PaaS services which provide the compute in the public cloud. And then advanced value-added control services where there are evolving technologies or the generation services coming. Take an example of service mesh or cloud native segmentation, so those emerging technologies will be part of the advanced value added. Now let me come to the center. This identity and access management is the key around the cloud security. The CSPs provide various segmented approach. If we look into the top cloud service provider, everyone has their own some kind of IDP. They provide some kind of integration. There are facilities which provide federated, but still, if we look into identity is certainly now the is like a perimeter. it is first needs to be established before any access is provisioned. So from that standpoint, it is the key and heart of the cloud security. And there will be a lot of focus on this specialty unit. This specialty unit will be running number of different topics from privileged access management, customer identity access management, identity governance. So these are the topics will be part of identity and access control. So with that, we can move to the next slide, Partha.
Sorry, the next one. Okay.
Thank you very much. So this slide is focused on, we are, as Partha mentioned, we are trying to put some structure around it, because this is a volunteer community where the different expertise, different practitioner with a different skill set are proposing the different kind of topics or different kind of advice. So this is the content framework we are putting in place. So first is to start with the topics, the number of topics which will come in. There will be proposal of number of topics. There will be different priority across the different practitioner. They are working in different industries around it, right? So that topic, which is the team will be working and the priority of it. And there may be even one special unit may have number of topic proposal, number of topic in the pipeline. And that's where we are putting this to start with, there's some structure around it, that how that topic proposal happens. And then some selection part of it, where there will be a small committee among the specialty units, which will be do the voting and selection criteria, based on a certain set of rules. And then once the topic is selected, then making sure that topic could be very broad, even, take an example of IAM, if a privileged access management. There are a number of other, subtopics under it. So that's where the scoping will happen, but exactly the specific guideline, and considering that we are trying to, the guideline, the document, we are trying to focus it and keep it very limited, making sure that we are not producing a, 200-page document. We are not producing a research-based documentation, which is not practical. So we are trying to be very diligent about it, making sure that we define the scoping of that. So that's the first step of the framework. And second is the creation stage of it, where how the content is generated among the members, how the different volunteer experts are on the table, they're contributing it. So that's where the special unit comes in the picture. And the distinguished member, as Partha earlier mentioned in the previous slide, the distinguished members contribute and the creator of the documentation. So that's where the creation phase is. And then it is certainly led by SPUN chair and co-chair. And then they produce the initial draft of it. The next stage is the review phase, where the review is happening within the SPUN specialty unit, as a peer review. There may be members which are working as a review part of that SPUN, which will do the first review. That's where it starts. And then the second review is happening with the industry advisors. So that's where, the another level of review happening before an interim draft is proposed. So a level of review is happening in creation stage, a level of a special review is happening across the distinguished the specialty members and industry leaders. That's bring the interim draft on the table. Then it goes through the editing and final reading for it before it is made public. So that's the stage of where editing is happening, making sure the diagrams are appropriate, the content is appropriately generated, it aligns with the scope which is there, and then goes for public review. So we will be opening it for public review and comments, making sure that it really because there may be a number of participants who are interested in consumption of the content, but they may not be able to participate, but they have all different aspects and requirements around it. So we will open it for public review. And from that says it will stay for open for some time. We will collect the feedback, we'll collect the comment, we'll take it back to the specialty unit for revision and reviews if required, and then finalize the document. And that will be then published as a final version. And then the last stage is around the promotion and issuance of it, how it is promoted to the various channels, how it is shared it over the LinkedIn, shared it over the website and other things.
Sorry, I just clicked on the next one, Sunil. So just to keep on the time check, right? We are
that's where
30 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much. And that's where, so this shows the a sample of the document. And I think it's key. As a practitioner myself, when I need to search on any topic, you search in Google, there's a lot of information comes up. You find number of niche documents, those are 100, 150 pages, 200 pages document. Similarly, go for other forms, either you are looking into ISACA, you are looking into IC2, you're looking at a Cloud Security Alliance. Number of documents are available with number of information. And the information is so segmented and focused on maybe on silos, or just a very limited aspect of it, that we have to really struggle as a practitioner. If I'm trying to look into a specific topic, what are those features? What should I start with? What are the minimum things I should implement, to get a basic maturity level? What are the additional items required, or what are the additional controls are required in terms of to get an intermediate level of maturity, right? It is very, the information is not available, right, at that level of it, so that the practitioner can directly consume it. And that's what the motive is, as Partha explained earlier. So this is for practitioner as well as for vendors, so that they can envision where the technology is evolving and what different set of features should be part of a product. Today, we look into the vendor, they have a number of features in their products. And now, as Partha took a couple of examples around SASE or CNAP, or there's a number of other buzzwords which we'll go through. The vendor is saying it makes, and Zero Trust is one of the very evolving one, and every product is getting marketed with zero trust security, right? So is that really required? Number one, the vendor what really should, if this product is for zero trust security, this product is for in a specific topic, what are the different features required in it? There may be the product only covers half of it, but it is presented in front of the customer go across the board, and they will see that, okay, there are plus and minus, but many of them may not cover it, the required technology aspect of it, required, security control standpoint. They may not have all the features. So that's why we are trying to keep the document so simple that it's directly consumed by the practitioner, and it will cover the various aspect of it, which is why this control, why these are the features required from, so that it highlights the risk and threat aspect of it in terms of how the user experience will be, what is the operational challenges or operational aspect of it, and then the features needed, providing the overview of the feature, what that feature is, why it is needed, and how it is applicable to that specific scope and topic. And then including some optional as well. The customer may want to, the practitioner or organization mature their environment, they may want to take advanced step where there are some optional, with some organization may go ahead and adopt it, or based on their various scenarios where those are applicable. And then any integration nodes, and take an example of some reference architecture, or if there are interesting solution for those interesting problem, which is applicable wider. So those kind of or word of wisdom from industry experts. So those kind of additional and optional content will be there as applicable. So these are the key, and making sure that this does not go beyond 4 or 5 pages or 6 pages document.
Right. So Sunil, if we can, let's quickly touch upon some of the sample contents are being discussed right now within the community that we should be working on. Just,
Sure.
yeah, probably we don't have to read through like the entire thing. It is pretty much like people can see it and we'll definitely share. But yeah, like any particular thing you want to highlight here before we move into our the recorded one. And I see like there are 2 questions in the chat. We would like to address those Q&A as well.
Sure, absolutely. So there are a number of topics which have been proposed, and some are you look into. I think we have touched base in some aspect of it. Multi-cloud connectivity or now native segmentation or cloud data protection. So these are the different topics which the specialty unit will start working on it. And as I mentioned before, it will go through a various. So these are the proposal. These are the requested through various members. So we will be working on these and through our framework and making sure that we bring the quality content to it. I believe next is the recording. So for the panel discussion, we could not, due to different travel and the panelists were not available. So we recorded it last week. So Partha will play it. Yeah. Thank you, Partha.
Yeah, so we just, thank you very much. Like, 3 of our leaders from the industry, Aarti Chavan, who actually is the head of identity and access management for Anthem, and Tianla is the head of architecture engineering for Humana, and Vishwas Manral, who is one of the serial entrepreneur right now, the Cheif Technologist at Skyhigh, and I, along with Sunil, we got together. We had a good chat and talk about what are the challenges everybody is facing, where industry is going, and what is their thought about this kind of a council where it is some sort of a voluntary but vendor agnostic and kind of what of the thing we're talking about, like a buzzword free practical guideline. And we just recorded and we're going to play just for you, and then we will jump into that Q&A and the chat questions. Thank you.
Hey, welcome everyone to the Cloud Security Practitioner Council's kickoff event. My name is Partha Chakraborti. I'm the head of Cloud Security and Innovation Program for Humana. And I am joined with Sunil. Sunil, I think, yeah, people can see you, so which is great. So say hello to everyone. So he is managing all the activities and the content and this active community. So acting as the community manager. We are going to do our first ever think tank series, which is a panel discussion. The panel discussion is on all the buzzwords and hypes when it comes to cloud security, how a practitioner can navigate through it. We will see both perspectives. From a practitioner's perspective, what do we need to do, how we manage through it, what is the one we need to filter? And we will also hear from the other side, right, who are building the product and solutions for us so that we can get an overall perspective. So I am joined by distinguished panelists. They don't need much introduction. They have years of experience in the industry in security and cloud space. So let me start introducing without any particular order as it is appearing on my screen. So I will start with Aarti. She is the head of Identity and Access Management Program for Anthem. Thanks for joining us, Aarti. Thanks for your time. Thanks. And then we have Vishwas Manral. He is the Cheif Technologist for Skyhigh Security, former McAfee, and he used to be the CEO of NanoSec, which was merged with McAfee. So he is also a well-known face in the industry as a thought leader, a lot of publications and a lot of articles, and in CNBC and Forbes Tech Council as well. So thanks for joining, Vishwas.
Absolutely, pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. And last but not the least, Tianla, he is the VP and Head of Architecture and Engineering for Humana. Tian has a lot of years of experience in the industry, including financials like Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, SunGard. He used to be the former CISO at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and he is running the architecture and engineering program for cybersecurity for Humana. So thanks for joining, Tian. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Partha. Great being here.
Glad to have everyone. I know it is, we initially planned to do a live session because of the travel and all those stuff. It did not happen, and we thought that, okay, we will record it out, and really appreciate everybody like spending some time on a Friday evening. and we are going to add this section during our kickoff event on 28th. So my first question, right, if I can start, probably Thian, if I can start with you, is when it comes to cloud security, right, you have seen in other places, you are seeing in Humana and from your overall experience, what are the top things you are dealing in a day in and day out, right? Is it identity your biggest headache, or it is data, or it is cloud posture management? What are the top challenges that you are dealing and your organization is handling?
Yeah, Partha, I think all of those are typical of the challenges that everyone is going through. I think when we started in cloud, I started looking at it in 2010, but really started doing things like app migrations more like 2015, 2016. And the amazing thing at the beginning was that the smartest architects, the smartest engineers were making huge mistakes around misconfiguration. And it wasn't because they were not intelligent, it was just very brand new. So the fact that you can deploy something so quickly and also in an automated fashion, obviously it also increases the velocity and potential acceleration of how badly it could go as well, right? So issues could be deployed as quickly as real solutions. And we were just finding, some of our top architects thinking that something was not internet facing, but what actually was, right? And it was a data storage, and they moved data into it fairly quickly. And so we were getting a lot of action from, of course, attacking countries, nation states. So that was probably one thing. All the other things you mentioned, unauthorized access, we actually ended up closing down our access significantly, because initially we gave a lot of people access, freedom to play around in sandboxes, freedom to move technology. But later on, we cut that down significantly because it was clear they were not sure what they were doing. The other challenge, which is slightly different, is around talent. If you were to ask me, it's just been quite a journey around trying to obtain talent and keep talent. So we're trying to think of different strategies. I'm in DC, and when Amazon and Salesforce moved into DC, they pretty much took anyone with like a pulse and the word cloud in their resume. No offense to anybody, but they were hiring left and right, and they're hiring the top candidates. They were also hiring those with very little experience. So, in our area immediately, it dried up. We had to go kind of nationwide. Of course, the pandemic kind of fueled that as well to get the talent that we needed. And I think it's still a struggle to find truly talented people that have experience, that have been there, done that in the cloud security field.
No, can't agree more here with you, right? So definitely these are the challenges everybody is facing. So Arti, if I can ask the same question, like what you see, right, currently in your current company, as probably you are embarking on cloud journey, or even in your past in Synchrony or other areas. So what are the main challenges in cloud adoption, especially in terms of security?
That's a great question, Partha. And I try to give an analogy, right? Every organization pretty much is in that analogy, I think. So we are trying to get into a running train called as cloud without a lot of funding, without a lot of talent that we have, without a lot of thought process and time to put together that thought process. So while we are trying to get into that running train, we are also trying to do everything else. And most of us security professionals have grown into an on-prem type of a culture. So we think on-prem, but we try to implement cloud. And when we do that, I think some of the challenges in day-to-day that I see is, first, a lot of people don't know what they are trying to do with cloud. So restricting the access and having managed identities, but also making sure we don't end up in a lot of audit findings from the regulatory compliance. That's, for me, is the biggest challenge. Along with everything else, like having lack of asset inventory, having ton of vulnerabilities without understanding how are we even going to protect things that we don't know exist in cloud. So those for me are topmost challenges.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Arti. So, Vishwas, from your perspective, right, you see like a lot of clients, right? They're coming to you and asking for the feature request, and you are building solutions for them. So, what do you see like the top challenges faced by your customers in the industry?
So yeah, I think that's a great question, right? And firstly, I'll say great answers already from Aarti and Thian. So I don't know how much I can add to that, but I'll give you my perspective. Right? The way I look at it is, I see customers at different levels of maturity, and depending on the level of maturity, the challenges are different. If I look at customers who are just starting off, and that's to Thian's point, right, where he mentioned 2015 and 16, he was finding architects who were putting code out there and or services out there, and they did not know things were open to the internet. If I see all the organizations that are just starting off their journey, that's where people really are, right? Basic issues, basic concerns, they do not know what to do. Security comes in late. The engineering teams and the technology teams have already started adopting the cloud, and they need to know not just what they need to, how to secure the cloud, but they actually want to know what is their journey to adoption of the of cloud security. And what I tell them is, right, instead of just telling them, hey, buy solution A, B, and C, I actually give them a path to adoption, right? Hey, if you're starting off now, you start off with exactly the typical things, right? Like start off with visibility, start off with identity, right? So identifying things, visibility, right? Once you identified, then it's about protect, right? Then detect, respond, and recover. And you have to sort of go through the journey for each of those three pillars that you mentioned, whether it's CSPM, whether it is identity, whether it's data. With that said, what the bigger challenge that we've seen more recently, right, as we sort of saw a big movement to the cloud in the last 1 or 2 years, is the amount of attacks and the number of attacks and the kind of attacks have gone and changed quite a lot, right? Where earlier it was script kiddies going to environment, trying to get into your data, pulling data out. Because of the amount of data that is now put in, critical data that is now in the cloud, we are seeing a lot of more sophisticated attacks that the kinds of which we saw earlier in the enterprise now come up. So from my perspective, if I was to look at it like, or to summarize, I think it depends on the journey of the enterprise, the kind of issues that they have. They start off with sort of basic visibility, protection, detection, respond, and recover. But if I look at the more sophisticated enterprises, I think what we are slowly starting to see is a lot more sophisticated attacks, even in the cloud. And we are getting to things like data protection becoming very, very critical as we move forward.
Thank you, Vishwas. I mean, really appreciate it. It definitely makes sense. My next question, maybe I can start with Aarti, just changing the order a little bit. So, how do you navigate as a customer through all the buzzwords and the hype cycle coming up when it comes to cloud security? Like somebody on the other day, one of my colleagues for a long time was joking that like the way NIST basically recommends identify, detect, protect, respond, and recover, we need to have a framework for even for the buzzwords. Like it started with something like a research analyst company will toss some terminology. Next year, it may change something. So how do you navigate through it?
That's a great question. And I face that every single day. There are at least a couple of buzzwords that I hear every day that I have to Google and find out what exactly does that mean. I think we really have to take the back to basics approach. And maybe this practitioners community would take that as a first step to educate people on what are the key basic terminologies related to cloud that we all need to familiarize ourselves. And then how to connect the dots. I think connecting the dots is very, very important because these buzzwords mean very different things when we talk about multiple different cloud environments. And especially if you try to compare that with your typical on-prem infrastructure, then it gets even more confusing. So having a good framework as part of this community is definitely going to help. But as of today, I think where the information overload is, it's very challenging. And sometimes I think getting the basic security certifications like CCSP and things like that, that gives some kind of foundation and that helps a little bit, but it's still a challenge to navigate through buzzwords. And then different vendors and different products and their terminologies makes it even more complicated.
Right. I mean, absolutely. Like I feel the same pain, right? When I am also making the decision, part of the innovation. And so Thian, if I can ask the same thing to you, right? And you are seeing this day in and day out. We started 2 years ago, something called Secure Access Service Edge. The concept was really great, merge security plane and control plane under one single plane. But industry was not ready. There were vendors who were strong in networking, and they were players strong in security. They did not have the right integration. So it became a great intention, but hypothetical scenario, right? You did not have the best of the best, and there was no. Later on, Gartner came up the following year and said that, okay, let's do SSE, like let's decouple network from security. Let's do one thing good, which we are good at. Let's do security. So like that, these days, if you look at cloud security, posture management, CNAP, there are like endless concepts, right? Mm-hmm. But as a customer, we have limited budget, we have limited priority, we have limited resources, and we have a pile of vulnerabilities, issues, threat intel that we need to deal with. So how do you think like someone should react to it, or how one should be navigating if you're on the receiving end, like if you're a consumer of technology?
Well, you know, to Arati's point, which is a good one, going back to what is it that you're really trying to solve, and looking at each of these solutions as what are the benefits and the value to us. Right. For us, as you know, Partha, we're trying to even just utilize the tools that we already have, right? We have a lot of tools in the cloud. There are native tools as well. They're rolling out new technologies and services every week. It's hard to keep up. A lot of that, thankfully, is actually in the security space to improve things so that we don't have to find yet another third-party tool. I found that it's been really helpful for us to get those testimonials from companies who have done that kind of testing already. And so we're part of a CISO group, about 300 CISOs and growing. And it's just like, hey, someone can ask a question. What do you think about, you know, cloud posture management? What are you doing? How do you think about micro-segmentation for containers, right? Is anyone doing that? And you'll get a response within minutes. Now, you know, and there's different groups like that, but I think finding one that you're comfortable with, that fits your requirements is extremely helpful to get those testimonials.
Right. No, I mean, like, yes, that's a great thing, like CISO Congress and the CISO group, where immediately you can spread the word, right? Okay, I have evaluated it. If anyone, you know, wants to use it, okay, I have a good feedback or did not have a good experience. So
and
that is,
yeah. Security practitioner. Hopefully that's, you know, this is what the mission will be.
That is the goal when we initially talked about it. How do we build sort of an Wikipedia where it can be trusted and people can get benefit out of it? Like just build the content and then people can enrich it by contributing it. Free public content. But again, if I'm looking into a solution, I need to see something. Can I get some of the information where I can trust that it is without any bias or anything? So let me ask the question in a different way, Vishwas, to you, right? And again, like and knowing you over the years, I really appreciate the candor and honesty, right? It is not about just telling about a particular product that you are particularly building, but I do appreciate the guidance and honesty as well, that, okay, this is the problem, this is what we are trying to do collectively, because at the end, it's an ecosystem. As a customer, as a vendor, if both parties are not bonding together, eventually the outcome is not good for either side, right? So my question to you is that as those terminologies are coming up, I mean, some of it is from the Gartners or the Forresters of the world. Some are driven by like the innovators, where you are coming up with your own startup idea and something you see a problem. You're trying to solve that problem. But when you are trying to build this problem, you also miss the other side of the equation, right? What is actually the need of the customer, right? Because when we hear that thing, right? And these days, even SEC is coming up with a requirement that every board should have a cyber expert, right? And even before SEC's requirement, board members know more cyber than many organizations on the CIO side or even like the CTO side. They ask questions about Log4j, hey, are you prepared or not? Because they all are reading all those information, right? So how do you ensure that the products or features you are building that meets the actual requirement of your customers, as opposed to like overdoing something or underdoing something, right? Where we can keep a gap open in our environment.
Got
So,
it.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, good question, good point, right? I think you're raising a really valid point. I know we talked about CSPM a lot. In fact, interestingly, today I saw some other acronyms in the alphabet soup today, right? You'd be surprised. I saw DSPM, which is Data
I
Security.
saw it 2 days before. DSPM, Gartner came up with that data security posture management.
Then I saw
That was
ASPM,
actually,
which is Application Security Posture Management. So I'm
and you
like,
can do identity as well, right? So if you do like identity, I was going to say that all SPM, identity and access posture management, data security posture management, application security posture management, you're done. So next 6 months, these are coming.
exactly, yeah. So the alphabet soup is, like you said, right, just growing and so on. And from my perspective, when I'm looking at, customers and I try to make sure I sort of address a problem, what I ask customers, and this is the thing that I've learned, right, like over the years, customers know their problems best, right? They know what they are suffering through. They know what they're going through. We have to hear the problem, empathize with the problem, but as a solution, as a person building the solution, I do not necessarily agree or ask my customers the solution. In a lot of cases, what I find is when I go to a customer, they say, hey, I need CIEM or I need this. I'm like, no, don't tell me you need CIEM. Tell me what problem you're having with identity, right? If you're talking about CIEM, or you're talking about data, tell me what problem you're having. Are you having a problem at the identification phase? Do you know where all your data is? Is it about shadow data? Is it about, what is it about, right? What is the core of the problem? That's the thing that I have seen that works, right? Once I understand the core of the problem, and I understand the customer pain points from understanding their own organization. And that's another thing that I see as vendors, we miss a lot, right? We miss a lot of, we think, hey, we're going to put our customer value is, as a product value is X, there's a new thing that is coming out, which is in a field Y. We'll just put X and Y together and say, hey, this is the core new thing. And from my perspective, that it does lead to good hype, but it does not necessarily sell the product, because customer environments, customers, even organizations are not aligned to consume the product the way they are, right? So that's the second part that I'll bring out. The third part that I've seen, and this is actually a pain point that I've been bringing out in the industry overall, right? What I see is, it's for cloud security, but also for other security technologies out there. What I see is that we are building security products for output and not for outcomes. What I mean by that is, like Thian mentioned, right, CSPM and so on, right? If you look at it, people are finding hundreds of thousands of issues in your cloud environments, and every product does that, but nobody is looking at how to make this operational, how to make sure that the risk for the customer goes down, and how they are able to resolve the issues. I think security products are designed with security output, rather than seeing what happens with the output, how the customer is actually able to consume that output, be able to actually remediate that thing, and be able to get a better outcome for the organization. I feel that is a gap that I continuously sort of hit against. And what I try to do, because that's the question you asked me, I try to make sure I am empathizing with the customer, understanding the pain points, and then building a solution that meets their needs versus just providing a security output. And that's how I look at this whole end to end.
No, I mean, very well said. I mean, you basically said what we see at times, like patient go to the doctor and say that, okay, give me that antibiotic or steroid, as opposed to telling what is my problem, right? Let the doctor fix it. I basically tell this is what I want. And also at the same time, like we are trying to solve or provide that output, not giving the right outcome, right? So these two definitely resonated with me. So that was a great conversation point that I was actually exchanging some of the ideas with another CEO and founder, right? And he's working on a particular product. And I was basically telling, as a customer, I would like to see, and again, I started tossing another term, like which I started calling like a rainbow protection, which is like from left to right cover, but there is a subtle difference in it, right? Where most of the people will think it's CNAPP, but what my thought process is that it is beyond CNAPP, a little bit of further right. So Sunil and I actually, we took interest, and we thought that, okay, we will come up with a white paper and start publishing and sharing with LinkedIn and see if generates some interest. And then if it is, then probably we can start sharing and see some influencing some of the solution providers and see if it meets our requirement or not. So But all great conversation. And one last thing, I know it's Friday evening late, and I'm not going to hold you guys late unless Sunil has more questions after me. So Sunil, I will leave it up to you. But my last question is that, what is your expectation from this free, like the community that we are building? What you would like to see maybe the first 3 months? I mean, there will be a roadmap, right? We cannot do, even though we have like 50+ members, but as it is a volunteer community, so we will not be able to do like all the chapters and all the technologies at the same time. But if you are, for the time being, if you think about that, you are going to be a customer or subscriber of this content, what will be your expectation in next 3 to 6 months? Or what are the areas you'd like first to be demystified? Anyone can go in any particular order.
I will go first. I think for me, going back to the basics and maybe taking a case study from an organization and saying an organization trying to adapt to a cloud journey. And typically the way it starts, most of the organizations would start with buying something from AWS, buying something from Azure, getting to GCP, and then having all the flavors. And when you already have all the flavors, how do you think about security with the basic building blocks? What are your key things? Maybe getting that type of a guideline on paper on strategizing. What do you even need from talent? What do you need from tools, technologies, budget? Providing that guideline. And then the second thing that I would be interested in is having some sort of Wikipedia for the buzzwords, because people are not able to relate to what does this word really mean? How do I relate to it? What do I do with this word? Right. So those are the key things for me.
Yeah, I would just add to Arati what she said. Absolutely, and also, you know, it's 3 of us here on this call, well, 5 of us, including the moderators. But I want to hear from the other groups, or sorry, the other members, just what their challenges are too. So maybe some kind of survey. What do we want to tackle first? Some of us are going through multi-cloud challenges, right? I know we are. So I'd like to hear how others have solved that, right? How do we get that single view? Because it's such a pain in the butt right now. Trying to get an overall view of all of our cloud environments. How have people accomplished that? So I would love to hear what are the real challenges that everyone is going through, and maybe we can volunteer some of the groups that have had some traction in those areas to just share unbiased testimonials without the vendors and the upselling, right? No offense, Vishwas, right? we need the vendors as well. And I would say, to your point, sometimes we do need to be told what the solution is. I think, who was it? Henry Ford said, if we were to ask the customer what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse, not a car, right? It's just, sometimes it's true, right? That's a watershed moment in technology.
That was a great example and quote, Tian. Thank you. So Vishwas, from your point of view, right, what would you describe as, these are the 3 things or 5 things you guys should think about first? I'm taking notes. I took like all the points from Arti and Tian.
Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. So from my perspective, I would be aligned with what Tian and Arti have already mentioned, right? Like understanding the bigger, you know, like, because there's a bigger community, understanding the landscape, right? The pain points from them, right? And seeing, hey, what are the challenges they are facing? What are the challenges? See, that's the other thing that I find, right? When you ask for a problem, everybody faces a problem, right? And everybody has, you know, every problem is being faced by everybody. The thing is, what is the most critical of them? What are the things that you're ready to sort of look at right now, right? This is something that I want to solve right now versus later. You've seen things like, you know, SSPM, we talked about CSPM, right? SSPM and others come up, but the adoption, as we've seen over the industry, has not been as much, right? Of course, it's an important thing. Of course, it's useful, but you know, it's not the most critical thing. So, if I was to look for at input from the community, I would love to hear what is the most burning problems right now. What is something that you would be seeing in the years time that you feel, and how do and then as sort of vendors, we can go out and sort of help solve those issues and challenges as we move forward.
Got it. No, I mean, absolutely, and thank you all for your time on a Friday evening. And I took notes, and Sunil and I, we will definitely take some action. Survey was the very first thing which comes in our mind, and we will basically do that after our initial kickoff call on 28th. So Sunil, any specific question you have for the panelists here?
Yeah, sure. I have one last question before we, close it. So there are a number of, cloud security practitioners part of this community. So what, you as a security leader advise to them, especially the practitioner who has started, or the organization who are starting up or in the mid of their journey, any advice for them?
Question for anyone?
I can go first. I think as somebody who's starting new on the journey, I am looking forward to learn a lot. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm trying to see who has invented the wheel and how I can reuse that wheel. And that's where I think joining the right forums, getting the information firsthand from the right folks, and really taking the time to think through the basics on what is your burning problem that you're trying to solve, having the right strategy, and making sure we have a path forward and we are not stuck with all these buzzwords and all this massive giant called as cloud. We still have to keep moving the needle while we are looking at the bigger picture, but we have to get the right context, right information, and unbiased information, right? So getting connected with the people is one of the very first thing I would say.
I completely agree. So I learn from others, because now we're like more than a decade into migrating to cloud, right? And some companies are born in the cloud, right? So depending on how what your journey might look like, but the only thing I would add is yes, what problems are we trying to solve, but sticking to what is the company trying to do in terms of unlocking business value, right? Like, why are we even going to the cloud? And I find that determining that mission and then aligning the security portion to it is very important too. Just because the cloud solves a specific problem in many cases for companies. It doesn't solve every problem. And then number two is just get a third party to join your audit team, or that has the journey expertise and the cloud experience, and tell them to be hard on you. Tell them to do assessments every 6 months, whatever it is. But when we included audit from the beginning of the journey, number one, they were very appreciative that they were invited. And number two, they acted more like partners rather than coming in at the end and being accused of not really knowing all this cloud business and technology and what's it all about. But having a strong audit team, especially in financial services, was very helpful.
Yeah, thank you, Arti. Thank you, Thyan. Any advice from you, Vishwas?
You're on mute.
I don't think I can give any better advice than what Arti and Thyan have already given. So I'll just agree with that and say, yeah, align with the company goals, and know your company goals, align with them, and then you know what how to progress in further on that. That's how I would say. Exactly. The security has to align with the business objective, not in a silo. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time, and have a great weekend. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Answer maybe real quick in next 4 minutes, and then we can wrap it up. We can definitely address anything beyond that available on LinkedIn or any other forum. So over to you, Sunil.
Sure. Thank you very much. I think you can stop sharing. I think that will bring everybody's face as well. So I think one question, I think I'll let you answer it. So question is, are there any reference architecture or security pattern for common or high value use cases? In addition to that, are there additional detail cross-referencing those existing standard and frameworks?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, first of all, like high value. What we started is that we started doing a poll across all the specialty units, like all the members, like what are the topics of interest? Where do you see like most of the utilization, or where do you see most of the confusion coming around? And there we need a clear guidance. So we will start with not only demystifying those buzzwords, like what it means. If it is a CNAPP, what it actually means for a level 1, level 2, and level 3 maturity, right? And what are the things you don't need if you have certain amount of controls already? And if you don't have anything, what are the things you should consider to improve your posture? But that being said, not only just the terminologies, we are also thinking about sharing some of the reference architecture, considering there could be some IP, right? Definitely, we are working for certain organization. We cannot share the organizational IP, but like scrubbing the IPs aside, right? What are the basic at a high level architecture that we can share? That's what we are thinking about, and we are brainstorming with all the experts here. And that's certainly one of the goals, to share some of the, like a reference architecture of, if you're thinking about a PAM, a lot of the time, as I say, like PAM is a clear example. The moment people talk about cloud PAM, they start thinking about, okay, do I need a CyberArk? Do I need a Cloud Knox? Do I need X, Y, and Z? Before going and jumping into the product, let's talk about, divided into the scenarios, what are the risks or attack surface, and what are the controls we need? And from there, can we dive into a reference implementation? And then the vendor products come in, they will have certain feature offering. I do apologize for the background noise here. Certain offering, and it will be depending on the organization, like which offering best meet their requirement. But from this council, our goal will be to come up with some sort of a recommendation, and also sharing some of the experience, right? If you're going down that path, these are the challenges you are likely to see. If you're going down this path, then probably these are the successes others have seen. So in short, to answer your question, yes, there will be some reference architecture also will be touching after scrubbing the IPs of the organization. So no organization specific thing, but very generic things.
Thank you, DJ. I see the thumbs up, so thank you very much for that. And I took notes on another recommendation related to enabling the transcript. So I'll try, if when we publish the recording, we can if we can add the transcript as well. Thank you very much, and we'll keep that feedback for future sessions.
That's a very good feedback, and thank you all. Right? Is there any other questions, Sunil? Otherwise, I know
I don't see any other question, but I know we are already 5 minutes over. But you can unmute yourself, and please feel free to ask the question. I think we can certainly.
So how can we contribute? First thing is that, DJ, so that's a great question. We want a lot of contribution here, because as you can see, it's a volunteer thing. So Sunil actually operates, and his contact is cm@securitypractitioner.cloud. That's the domain that we registered. So please reach out to him based on your expertise area, wherever you'd like to partner with. So please reach out, and we will immediately start acting on this, and we will need the contribution from experts like you.
Yeah, and I just want to add really quickly. I know we're a bit over time, and there's a lot of noise coming from our family members now. No, I think this was a great session. Partha, you and Sunil did a fantastic job despite the technical challenges. I think it was well understood, and we're looking forward to contribute and to learn together and to sort of make cloud a better place for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Subodh, and thank you very much for being one of the first to join our advisory board. When I was posting like all of everyone's picture, I took it from LinkedIn, and I saw that being a security guy, you are hiding behind and you don't have your picture on your LinkedIn. So
I know I need to work on that. That's a good driver for me to add a picture now. I'll work on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. So
Bye.
have a great evening. Thanks for joining.